Hello, my name is Gene Macarini and I'm a training captain with Poudre Fire Authority. In this video, we're going to be covering basic level forcible entry for both commercial and residential inward and outward swinging doors. In July of 2015, we did a department-wide training scenario where we saw an opportunity for improvement in terms of forcible entry for residential doors. We ran that scenario again in 2016 and we saw the same opportunity. That was the responsibility of the training division to address that, and that's what the purpose of this video is to get out some curriculum for folks and crew members to go out and train and practice so that we can heighten that skill level.
Years ago, the search team got together and decided to create standardized terminology and standardized assignments when we're searching. This created an environment that no matter what company that you were assigned to, you guys would search the same way. We're going to try to do the same thing with forcible entry. Currently, about half of the PFA have been through our forcible entry class through FRFC, so this is our next step to just make sure that we're all on the same page. With forcing doors, two people are on the tools. You have one individual on the axe, you have one individual on the halligan. The way I kind of describe it is the person that's on the axe, that's the brawn. They're the ones who are the muscle of the operation. Their sole job is to provide muscle and listen to the individual that's on the halligan. The halligan's the brains. They're going to be one that's sizing up the door, choosing the route to take, and how to use the tool. So those two are going to work in conjunction to come through and force the door. Just like search, we have a standardized terminology. With forcible entry, we also want to have a standardized terminology. We use 5 basic words, and for me, less is more with communication. The 5 basic words are ready. That's to indicate that the individual that's going to be striking and the individual that's on the halligan is ready. Hit, that's a one-for-one call. When the individual on the halligan wants a hit, he calls it one time, and the striking individual hits the tool once. It's one for one, that's it. Once the tool is set and where you need it to go, you're going to say drive. Those are continual hits. The person on the axe is going to continue to hit the tool until you're set, and then you're going to say stop. That term is used when you don't want any more movement from the axe individual. Now keep in mind when you say stop, anticipate one more hit. It might take a little time to process for that individual that's striking to stop the tool. He might be mid-swing. The last term that we use is capture. This is something that we saw that was being standardized in the academy, but maybe not online. Capture is a call that the halligan individual uses in order for the person on the axe to come in and either place a wedge there or use their axe as a wedge to capture the progress that they've made while forcing the door. Prior to forcing any door, we have to do a size up. Now we all know that size up can begin when you're en route on pre-plans. Maybe it's not going to begin until you get there. Sizing up a door, I like to work my way out from in. So first and foremost, what type of building are you going to? Are you going to residential or are you going to commercial? I work my way out from what the building is giving me, what the door frame is giving me, and then the door itself. So maybe you arrive and it's a masonry building. That's important. Maybe you arrive and it's a metal door frame. That's also important. And then we're going to look if it's inward or outward swinging. There's 2 key ways to find out if it's outward swinging or inward swinging. This one is an inward swinging door. The first way we can tell is because where it lies in a stop. Obviously the door can't come this way because the door is right up against the stop. And the second way is the hinges. There's no hinges present, so we know that's an inward swinging. Outward swinging doors and sizing those up. It's basically the same as an inward swinging door. You're sizing it up on pre-plans, you're sizing it up during response, then when you get there. You look at the same stuff. You look at what the building's made out of, you look at what the frame's made out of, and then the door itself. Again, your biggest indicators of whether it's inward or an outward are your hinges, and then if your door's flush or not. So this door's flush, so we know it's outward swinging. The other thing with outward swinging doors that you want to size up is primary and secondary locks. Primary lock would be the one that's either the key in the knob or some type of handle lock. And your secondaries are going to be anything else on the door that can indicate that there's an additional locking mechanism on the back that might give you some trouble. The standardized process is size up, shock, gap, set, and force. Sizing up the door. We talked about it a little bit ago, but let's just do it again. As we come up to this door, we know we have a wooden door, it's in a metal frame, and it's inward swinging. That's known by there's no hinges, and where it sits on the stop. The next thing is to shock the door. Shocking the door is a systematic method of kind of A, weakening the locks, and then B, trying to figure out where there are locks on the other side. I do it holding the tool like this, having my forks on the end, and I do it in a systematic way of always going from the top to the bottom. I'm reading that door, and it's always going to be the individual on the Halligan. Remember, he is the brains of the operation. He needs to be looking at where everything is at in order to set his tool. So you're going to start up top, and we're going to keep it on this plate today, but on a regular door, you would do the entire door itself. So you want to shock it. That indicated that there was probably some locks right here. We got quite a bit of movement up top, quite a bit of movement on the bottom, but really no movement here. So that we've already shocked the door now. So we've weakened the locks, kind of have a good idea of where there possibly is some locks. The next is gapping. So gapping is a way to additionally weaken the locks. Now keep in mind, when you gap, you may be forcing the door, okay? To gap this door, I always start with my foot on the bottom and give it a little pressure, okay? And you can see it's telling us exactly what we thought, that there's locks in the middle here. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our foot down here, we're going to take the adds portion of it, and we're going to put it and slide it up as far as we can. And you might have to get into it a little bit with your foot. And you want to keep some back pressure on it, okay? So you keep some back pressure on your tool, and now we're going to gap the door further. We're going to use the mechanical advantage of the adds and your full 30-inch bar. Once it's in there against the stop, keep some pressure back, and we're going to rotate away from the pike all the time, okay? So obviously if it's on the other side of the door, you're going to have to rotate up. This one we're going to rotate down, and the reason being is if we rotate it up, the pike is going to hit that door, and it's going to want to kick out. So we're going to want to keep pressure on it and go down. So now we've got a little bit more of a bite. We can keep going up with it. Just make sure you keep using your foot to get in there. That's as far as we're going to make it. So, previous video, you already saw me shock the door and gap it. We're going to continue from there. So, going back into our gapping, we get that good gap bite with our foot and our adds, and we crunch down. Remember, keep pressure on the tool. When I get to where I want it to go, I'm going to say capture. That's that term that we use in order to capture what we've got. You can either do it with the axe, or you can do it with the wedge. So we used a wedge. Then we're going to get ready to set the tool and obviously force. So setting the tool, it's an inward swinging door, so we know that we're going to want to use the forks of the tool. Now we've got two options. We've got bevel towards the jamb or bevel towards the door. It's going to be different. So if you bevel towards the jamb, as you can see, the way this is curved, it's going to be much easier to get around that door. But you lose a little leverage and you lose 6 inches of throw because your adds is going to run into the door. But that's going to give you the easiest time to get around that door, but again, least amount of leverage. But that's what we're going to start with. Again, I'm on the Halligan, so I'm the brain. Got Gino here, the brawn. Sizing up that door, we know where the locks are. We want to either try to pick 6 inches above or below the lock, or in the middle of those locks. So we're going to go right here. We think that there's a good chance we can get in there. So I'm going to see if I can sink this guy in here a little bit. And remember, I'm going to call hit. That's a 1-for-1 command. Hit. Hit. Now, as I call hit, I'm going to continue to move this tool around and try to walk it around this door. That's why it's 1-for-1. Hit. Hit. So, the other thing we need to kind of explain is I'm here. This is where I'm looking. This is where Gino's looking. That's it. I don't want to be looking at where he is hitting. If he hits you, you can hit him later. Drive. Stop. So I called stop. He stopped. And we'll get a close-up for you on this, but we stopped where that indicator mark is right with the door itself. And now we go to force. Forcing can be done by 1 or 2 people. Remember, we want to use the entire length of the bar. We want to force in, not out. If we come this way and this thing gives away, better chance of going backwards or possibly through that door to whatever environment's in there. So we're going to get ready to force it. You ready? Force. So we forced it, but we're not all the way through yet. Don't take your tool out. We want to capture this progress. So the next word will be capture. Again, either with the wedge or the axe itself. you've got a couple options here since we've made the gap so big. You can either just turn the tool around. Again, you're going to get 6 inches of throw. Or if you can fit your adze end in, this is going to be your most leverage. This is your 15 to 1. You fit it in, and you always want to go down and in. Make sure you grab the door for vent control. Capture. Hit. 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 Drive. Stop. Force. Capture. Going straight. Hit! Hit! Drive! Stop! Capture. Outward swinging doors, forcing them and sizing them up. Sizing them up is virtually the same as an inward swinging door. Just like the inward swinging door, we're going to work from out to in. Building, frame, door, and locks on the door itself. The process is the same, so size up, shock, gap, set, force, except for that shocking portion. We're typically not going to shock an outward swinging door. The reason being is it's already up against the stop. If you go ahead and shock that door, it's really not going to tell you much. It's not going to give you anything. It's really not going to loosen the locks. But we do have something in place of the shock, and that's the gapping and the crushing. So we've got a couple options to kind of try to reveal those locks. Our first one would be the gapping. We can go ahead and put our tool in here. Hit. Hit. I hear that change. It means I'm really where the stop is. And you can crush up and down. Again, you're looking for where those locks might be and where you want to set your tool. Your other option is crushing the door. And what that is you're going to go ahead and hit your Halligan in a systematic way up and down and reveal where those locks might be. Obviously there's going to be a crease in here, and then you'll be able to look to see exactly where those locks could be. So that's your two options. We're going to go ahead and force the door up top here. We saw that there were locks here and here, so we're going to start here. You ready? Hit! 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 So I heard a change of sound. What that's telling me is I'm probably hitting the stop. And the other thing is my indicator mark is flush with the frame. So I know that we're basically hitting that stop. I'm going to pull some back pressure, and here's where you're going to have to do a little bit of reading of the door and work patiently. Hit! Go back and take a look. Hit! Look again. Hit! I know that I'm free and clear of that door now. Now you can drive. Drive! Stop! Thing's buried in there. We'll go ahead and force it. I'll you be here. You be here. 1, 2, 3. Remember to control your door. Force and just finish your force. Hit. 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 Drive. Stop. Ready? Let's talk about a couple best practices for the individual that's handling the axe. A common way to hit the Halligan with the axe is this. This has been taught all across the country. It's not a bad method, but as you can see, you have a much higher chance of missing that just because surface to surface it's pretty small. What we'd like to see is get down on eye level with it. If you're in a smoky environment, your chances of missing are a lot smaller. We want to keep it at a 45 degree, so that way if you do miss, man, you might at least hit that tool and not hit your partner. So body positioning. Some individuals might want to get down like this, although this might be comfortable for you. You can't really have a lot of power. If you had a baseball player that was going up to bat and he was this narrow, probably wouldn't work very well. Having one leg out and getting a wide base provides you the ability to kind of use a little more muscle. Also, where you hold the axe is gonna help your operation. If you hold it up top here and you miss, man, it's probably gonna hurt when you jam your fingers. The other thing, you can't really get as much power. It's like a framing hammer. If you're framing, you want to hold the handle all the way down to get the most leverage. Same thing here. About 6 inches below is going to be where you want to be. Just want to be ready, eye level with it, good base, 45 degrees, strike that way. The following photos are photos we took that would demonstrate how to use your tools together in order to create more mechanical advantage if you needed it, if the door is extremely tight to force. And there's a couple other photos in there of ways you can use your Halligan or your axe to gain access into places where the conventional methods won't work.
Our ability to pull a line off a rig quickly, get inside the structure and put the fire out, as well as perform a primary search in order to save lives, does us no good if we cannot get inside the house to perform those skills. So it's very important that we continue to practice this skill of forcible entry. Forcible entry is not a support company skill, it's a firefighter skill. So it's very important that the engine companies go out and make sure that they can perform forcible entry at a very high level. Oftentimes when we arrive just even on a simple medical call, we find ourselves having to perform forcible entry to get inside that house, to take care of the patient, and due to the fact of their inability to get to the door and let us in. So go out there, train hard, and keep enhancing the skill.